Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. Today, we're going to completely master jQuery DOM manipulation. Now, I want you to think of this whole process kind of like an architect's blueprint. We aren't just in a text editor typing out random commands here. We are dynamically restructuring a live web page on the fly. We're talking about moving structural beams, adding completely new rooms, you name it. So, whether you're a junior developer stepping onto the digital construction site for the very first time, or you're a seasoned builder just looking for a quick refresher, this explainer is going to give you absolute structural control. Let's just dive right in.
Here is our game plan for today. First, we'll cover mastering target element selection. Second, inside, append and prepend. Third, outside, before and after. And finally, number 4, content swap, HTML versus text.
All right. Kicking things off with Section 1, Mastering Target Element Selection, finding that foundation.
Look, the absolute first step of any jQuery manipulation is the selection process. I mean, if you accidentally start building in the wrong container, your entire layout is going to break. It's like pouring concrete in the neighbor's yard. Looking at our source tutorial, we see a really highly targeted approach. Step 1, we grab the container section using the ID #tweets. Then step 2, we target the specific div tag that's nested right inside of it. By chaining these two selectors together, we lock onto our exact target element box. We've officially found our foundation.
Okay, so with the foundation found, we obviously need some building materials. Let's define our payload. Over in our source example, we have a variable cleverly named tweet. Now this variable is essentially just a stored string that contains some prefabricated HTML code wrapped around a bit of data. In this specific case, it's a quirky, totally imaginary tweet that says, "The Bigfoot live, have versus cheese." Yeah, it's a bit nonsensical for sure, but it perfectly represents our structural payload. It's built, it's packed securely into a variable, and it's just standing by, completely ready to be injected into our web page. Moving right along to Section 2, Inside, Append and Prepend. Think of this as our interior decorating phase.
Take a look at this spatial layout. It highlights a really key functional difference between our first two methods. Both append and prepend operate entirely inside the boundaries of your target element. The big difference is their actual box position. Append drops the payload right down at the bottom of the element's inner space. Prepend, on the other hand, shoves that exact same payload all the way up to the very top. Let's see how this actually builds out visually.
Here we can see the before and after states for the append method. We start out with a target div that just contains a single paragraph tag, a standard p tag. Now, once we call the append method on our div and pass in our tweet variable, look at what happens. The new content slots beautifully inside the div, but notice exactly where it lands, right beneath the existing paragraph tag. It essentially goes straight to the back of the line inside that specific container.
Now let's switch gears and see how this works using the prepend method. We've got the exact same starting point, but when we execute prepend with our tweet payload, the result is completely flipped. That exact same tweet variable lands at the very top of the inner contents, right before the paragraph tag. It's kind of like append is adding a quick PS at the bottom of a letter, while prepend is stamping a massive new headline at the very top. But remember, both of them are still totally inside the letter itself.
All right, let's step outside for Section 3, Outside, Before and After. This is what we call exterior landscaping.
Notice the total shift in the spatial location here. We are now explicitly outside the target. Instead of stuffing content inside our target div, we're actually placing elements as structural siblings right next to the target element. So the before method places the payload directly preceding the target, and after naturally places it directly following the target.
Let's visualize this one too. This time around, our actual target is the p tag itself rather than the surrounding div. See how when we use the before method, the new tweet gets placed cleanly right in front of the paragraph tag? It sits entirely outside the paragraph's inner structure. It is now a sibling to the p tag, sharing the exact same parent container.
And as you'd probably guess, using the after method does the exact opposite. By targeting that same p tag, the new payload gets pushed right behind the p tag structure within the normal flow of the document. If you ever want to insert a brand new element right next to an existing one, like say sliding a new book onto a shelf right next to another specific book, these exterior sibling methods are literally exactly what you need. Okay, Section 4, Content Swap, HTML versus text. This is the complete remodel.
This right here is absolutely crucial.
you have to understand the architectural distinction between the .html and .text methods. .html aggressively replaces all existing inner content with brand new HTML code that the browser will actually execute and render. .text, however, updates only the text content, actively preventing any code execution whatsoever. Let's zoom in and look at why this is fundamentally so important.
Imagine you're at a crossroads as a developer. We have the exact same payload, our familiar tweet variable, but we're executing it through two completely different methods. One uses HTML, the other uses text. The code you write looks almost identical, right? But how the browser actually interprets these commands is literally night and day.
When you execute the HTML method, the browser goes, "Oh, hey, this is structural code." It actively reads the div tags that are hiding inside our tweet string, processes them, and boom, it completely styles a brand new, functional green box right there on the screen. It replaces whatever was originally inside the target element with this fully rendered, styled HTML structure. You are essentially telling the browser to compile and build.
But watch what happens with the text method. The browser just prints literal, raw characters directly onto the screen. It literally spits out bracket, div, bracket. No green box, no structure rendered. Instead of letting the browser render those tags, the text method forces the browser to treat every single character as plain, dumb text.
I really love this quote from our source material. This is not all text. Some of this is code. It's such a vital lesson, especially if you're a junior developer, because the text method acts as this massive built-in security layer. Think about it. If you take input from a user, let's say a comment on a blog post, and you use the HTML method to put it on the screen, a malicious user could write dangerous script tags in their comment, and your browser would just execute them. But by using the text method instead, you totally prevent that kind of malicious HTML injection. You strip the code of its power by treating everything as a literal, harmless string.
Which brings us to the end of our explainer, with a pretty serious architectural question for you to chew on. When you're injecting user data into your web pages, are you actually building a structure, or are you just writing text? Because as we've just seen today, choosing the wrong jQuery method doesn't just mess up your page layout. It dictates the deep security and structural integrity of your entire application. So, keep those boundaries clear, know your spatial positioning, and happy building.